Mindful Living podcast. And I'm your host, Sana, as always. And now, in today's episode, well, this is one of my favorite topic, and we are exploring the powerful link between our environment and mental well-being. And my guest, Bryan Hardy, he brings a rare blend of science, soul, and lived experience to help us rediscover that beautiful balance, vitality, and a deeper connection to the natural world. So, with this, let's begin the beautiful conversation. So, Brian, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really happy to have you here with us.
Yes, thank you, Sana. I'm excited to dive in and excited to share and to ideally inspire and educate or motivate some people listening to take their own mental, physical, environmental health to the next level.
Definitely, definitely, Brian. So, before we talk about the topic, I guess our listeners would be so interested to learn, to hear about your journey into this. So, we all, uh, since our childhood, we are all a part of this nature. But right now, in all this hustle and bustle, we kind of are not, or unintentionally or intentionally, not able to appreciate the wonder of nature. So, you have spoken about how your near death experience has shifted your perspective on health. So, how exactly, I mean, if you can describe that moment and that transition, and what does reconnection truly mean for your mental and emotional health?
Yeah, it's a great question, and to keep it fairly succinct or fairly to the point. I got into health because when I was 18, my appendix became inflamed and then ruptured and was misdiagnosed at the hospital that I went to. And so became very, very infected and left me in a very compromised state. And luckily, I did have surgery at the second hospital I went to, and they saved my life, truly saved my life. But it set me up for a long recovery of a ton of antibiotics and just the scar tissue from that surgery that formed in my abdomen, which caused me all kinds of issues. And I didn't have an understanding as to why did this happen? How could I have prevented this from happening? What's going on inside my body that at the age of 18, I'm almost dead. It didn't seem right to me. And the doctors and the nurses, bless them, they did amazing work to keep me alive and to stabilize me, but they couldn't answer the questions that I had in terms of why. Why did this happen? What should I do differently? Should I change my diet? Should I change how I'm living? They didn't have much at all to offer me on those questions. And so I started to just become obsessed with research, and I saw a naturopathic doctor, and she sat with me and really informed me as to the connection between my low energy and my digestive issues and my mental health challenges and my lack of focus in class, my lack of ability to focus, because I ended up very, very underweight, struggling with fatigue, always tired, couldn't pay attention in school, and just feeling not like myself and just bloated and inflamed all the time. And she started to break down the pieces as to what was going on and how I could actually support it with things like food, with things like herbs and supplementation, vitamins, minerals, this kind of thing. And so it was that experience and feeling the difference as I made changes with my diet, as I started to take different herbs, to support my nervous system and my stress levels. Um, and the biggest piece with that relates to environment was I started to use what at that point was the forest behind where I lived at university. I started to use that forest as a sanctuary, as a place to reset, as a place to de-stress, as a place to unwind my mind and just all the baggage I was walking around with, all the worries and the anxiety, and to just go there and to just be human, just connect with the trees, just listen to the birds, walk through the trails, and come back to a sense of feeling connected to myself, and by through that feeling connected to the larger world, the natural world. And so when it comes to like, what does that look like? Getting reconnected to the world of nature,
Mhm,
a couple things, right? It looks like eating real healthy whole food, right? Things that grow in a garden, things that you could identify if you saw them in a field somewhere or your fruit growing on a tree, this kind of thing. That's a very direct reconnection because it's what we're making our bodies out of. The things that we consume become us. And so if we're consuming more natural things, we're going to feel how we're naturally wired to feel, which is healthy and energized. And then the second piece to that is literally just putting yourself in an environment. It might just be, hanging out with a tree that's growing next to your building if you live in an apartment.
mhm,
If you live in a city, is there a river? Is there a creek? Is there a mountain you can climb? Whatever that is. But putting yourself in those environments where your mind has space to relax and to think and to let go of the stress of modern living in the city
mhm.
so that you can come back to a much more grounded and centered place within yourself. And from there, you're going to tend to feel a little bit better. You're going to tend to have a bit more energy and you're going to tend to have clarity in terms of, okay, what's the next thing I need to focus on?
Mm. That's so beautiful. And especially I love that you mentioned that you spend time with the nature, the forest, just to be human. I mean, that is so simple, just two words, but so profound and valuable. Just to
Mm.
because that itself explains that nature, environment, forests, they all are part of our own system as well. So uh,
Yeah.
this itself highlights that why we should not ignore the nature around us. And yeah, I mean, if we are staying in a city, we are living in a city and apartment, or we are stuck there, we don't have the option to move to the woods or be more closer to the nature. We can definitely find some options, like a lake or a river or a mountain or something like that. But still, there at the end of the day, Brian, I'll be very honest, I still prefer to move back to my childhood place, where I was born, because it's nearby a river, it's nearby a forest as well. And
Mm.
the sound of all, vehicles and the horns and everything, it's less. So I'll still
Yeah.
go the second option.
100%. 100%.
Okay, okay. And thank you for sharing that, Brian. And also, interestingly, you lived in the Peruvian Amazon. You studied with shamans. I mean, that is really, kind of mystical and beautiful. So, what did that experience teach you about the connection between emotional trauma, environment, and then physical vitality?
Yeah. 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 And just to put a little cherry on top of the last question, if you are in a city, literally just get like a house plant, one green living thing you can have in your apartment to take care of and to remind you of, the natural beauty. Not to mention a lot of those plants help filter the air. So they'll clean your air for you. But it can be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be, okay, I'm going to drive 30 minutes out of the city and climb a mountain. It can be, I'm going to take care of this plant, and that's good enough to start. Um, in terms of the time I spent down in Peru, I went down thinking that it was going to be about the ceremony, about the plant medicines, about the ayahuasca and the different plants that we were using and learning about and ingesting. I thought that was going to be the main thing, the biggest thing. What I found was that spending time with my teacher uh, who has since passed, but spending time with him and his family and walking through the jungle and seeing how much he was aware of and connected to the trees, the plants, the fruits, the sounds of the birds, the sounds of the monkeys, the sounds of the frogs. Everything had a story. Everything was speaking to him, and he understood it. And this to me was amazing because I had never, up until this point, I grew up in sort of a suburban lifestyle, outside of Toronto. So I had never been around indigenous people, people who had that kind of connection to the plants and to the animals and to the land that they were a part of. And just seeing that connection um, was transformative. It really showed me just how disconnected I had been for basically my entire life, and how by living in that way, I was cut off from such a source of richness and such a source of um, clarity and even purpose in a sense. Because if you live in a place and you care for that place and you take care of that place, whether it's tending to a garden or it's picking up garbage in your park nearby your house, or it's clearing a path through a forest so you and others can enjoy that path, um, it gives you a sense of purpose. It gets you out of yourself and focused on how can I serve this environment? How can I serve the nature around me? So that it becomes more beautiful, it becomes more productive in the case of food production. And I saw them doing that all the time. They were planting fruit trees all the time. They were clearing land. They were opening up pathways. Um, and they were just tending to the wildlife. They were tending to the gardens that they had. And it's interesting, a side note from this, some of the prisons that have the best, rehabilitation rate are the prisons where the prisoners, the people who are in prison, in jail, they get to garden as part of their time. So they have like community gardens inside these prisons, and those people tend to have the best recoveries and the best outcomes when they leave prison because they've learned this skill and they've spent time in the dirt, in the soil, which by itself is a very relaxing activity once you sort of become familiar with it. And so just by being there, having your fingers in the dirt, having your feet in the dirt, having the sun and the fresh air, and starting to understand, okay, I can take this plant. One of the best examples for me was we harvested fresh lemongrass, which I didn't know anything about lemongrass except that it was in food prior to this trip. I didn't know what it looked like, what it smelled like in the wild, what it was like growing fresh. So we harvested fresh lemongrass and the leaves off of a lemon tree. So the leaves off the lemon tree and the fresh lemongrass, we took that back to our kitchen and we made tea. And that tea was the most delicious, fresh herbal tea I had ever had. It was amazing. It like just lit you up from within.
Yeah.
It was so good. And so things like that have a direct impact on our mental health and our physical health, right? Because you have the full experience of going out, collecting it, smelling it. It smells amazing. And then bringing it back and turning it into something that is delicious and that makes you feel good. And so it's pretty hard not to feel better when you get to do things like that. And you get to build the confidence and the skills of being able to identify what can I eat from this natural environment? What can I turn it? What's a medicine from this natural environment? And how can I use it to directly support my body and by doing so support my mind?
Oh, oh boy. It just inspired me to, really go back to my childhood times. My parents, they had a huge garden in the back of the house, and we used to grow tomatoes, and then herbs, and three or four more vegetables, and we used to like literally use our garden grown tomatoes only, not from the market. And it used to be so delicious, genuine, earthy.
Mm,
Yeah, you just took me back to those moments. And definitely, this is in my bucket list that, at least to the capacity which I can, some of the herbs or, maybe vegetables which I can grow um in my apartment. Yeah, I'll definitely go for them, because not only from the nutrition and the physical viewpoint, but from the mental and emotional health viewpoint also, gardening is really, really, really satisfactory. Really satisfactory. That smell, that touch of the dirt, that soil, it is so, so satisfying.
yeah, 100%, 100%. And Yeah, for people that haven't had that experience, find a community group, find a meetup group, find some local person who does that kind of thing. They're typically out there, right? And people who garden, people who do organic farming, all this kind of stuff, most of the time, they're happy to teach you. If you show up and you say, "How can I help?" Right? Or "Can I volunteer, to help you out in harvesting something?" Many times they're happy to have the help and they're happy to share their knowledge because they want more people doing this kind of thing. And so, yeah, just like you said, it's like going back to your roots to figure out what's the simple things that I used to do that I don't do anymore or I don't make time for anymore. Maybe I lost track of in my pursuits, travel, move to the city, start a business, whatever it is, join a company. And so it's just carving out that little bit of time. And again, you could grow a basil plant in your house, right? You can do that very easily, and then take those fresh basil leaves and put it into a salad or your pasta or your whatever you're having, and just totally bring it to life. And so all those little things, all those little points of connection serve to really nourish us and to support a healthy body, a healthy belly, and healthy brain.
I'll just give an example. I mean, it's not exactly an apt example to this, but I guess it just highlights the importance of the natural things. In India, in our curries and in our recipes, we use the ginger and garlic paste, and now we have this commercialized version of ginger garlic paste, uh, and it definitely takes a lot of physical and a lot of physical work, and then time as well to peel the garlic, peel the ginger, and mince everything. But then one day, it was a Sunday, I believe. I just thought, okay, let me just try. I have a lot of garlic, I have a lot of ginger, although it was market bought, but still. And then I kind of took my pestle and mortar and I mixed everything and I cooked a curry with that. I'll be very honest, Brian, the smell of that particular curry with homemade ginger garlic paste and the one which I used to bring from market was way different. Way,
Mm,
way different. It kind of
yeah.
took me back to appreciate my grandmother, my mother, when they used to take time and grind all the spices and all these pastes, not get anything from the market, but just make everything at home. It was
Mm,
not only the taste of the food or the smell of the food, but the the appreciation to um, the value of the food we are eating. The roots connect with the Mother Earth. That you're giving me
yeah.
resources and I'm consuming them, but with full heart and respect.
Mhm. Well, that's just it, right? It's like why people always say that their mother or their grandmother's cooking was the best. It's because their love and the care they put into that preparation is felt. Like I definitely know that that makes an energetic difference, and it makes things taste better, and it makes things more nourishing for you.
Yeah.
It's a massive thing, and so the more we can find opportunities to do that, like you said, making it from yourself and seeing the difference and smelling the difference, tasting the difference. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I'm so glad that you gave yourself that gift to go and to prepare that for yourself.
Exactly. I'm never gonna buy any commercialized version of those ginger garlic paste. That have been
Mm,
a huge, huge, huge lesson for me that day.
beautiful.
Anyway, Brian, you emphasize integration, science and intuition, body and spirit. So, yes, in a culture which is obsessed with uh, either optimization or escapism, or all these quick fixes and everything, how do we find a sustainable middle path?
Yeah. It's a big question. It's a big question. And I'm certainly not perfect at it. I certainly have my own challenges and fall off and have to come back and start again and remember the basics from time to time. So I'm not perfect in any of this. This is an ongoing experiment of what works best, and what works best for me might not be the same thing that works for you. Um, that said, in general, you want to find things that you enjoy and that fit into your life, right? That you can make the time for and you can make the time for continuously. I was talking to a client about this recently, and for him, it looks like riding his bike to the park nearby his house and doing outdoor workouts a few times a week, right? He has a gym in his building, and he has a gym at work, and he uses those gyms. But to make that extra time to ride the bike, get outside, get the fresh air, and do your exercises outside, for him, it brings his mind and his body into a greater sense of harmony, and it relaxes his mind because so much of what I think helps us to sort of walk that middle path is spending more time in the body rather than just in our heads. And so, whether that's yoga, it's meditation, it is gardening, it is chanting, singing, painting, cooking, right? Exercise, any of these things can be a vehicle to get you out of that overanalyzing head, out of that, sort of optimization focus, neuroticism. And I've definitely been there. I can definitely fall into that category myself quite easily if I'm not careful. But so it's finding these vehicles. For me, we got a dog a couple years ago, and so for me, it's like, okay, I start every day walking the dog, and we just happen to be blessed to live in a place that is quiet and has birds singing and chirping in the morning and is very pristine. And so that's a way. That's how I remember that path. I remember to breathe deeper and to appreciate the nature and to appreciate my time, and then to come back and feel more grounded because of it. And so that's what works for me. Also, exercise worked well for me, as well as self massage. So, figuring out where are the areas I'm holding tension in my body, and then digging into those areas with a tool or a ball, and releasing that tension also really helps to bring, for me, and for a lot of people that I work with, it really helps to bring us out of our minds, out of our thinking, and more into our feeling and sensing state. And from that place, we tend to know, okay, what's the best thing for me in this situation? What's the thing that I'm feeling pulled towards or that I'm feeling, maybe a craving for? Like, you just finished a workout and now you're like, oh, I feel hungry. What do I want to eat? From that grounded, embodied perspective or state, you're going to be able to hear perhaps what your body is actually asking for rather than just what, I think, okay, this looks good on in terms of like, a quote unquote healthy option. I'll just have that. But meanwhile, you're not actually paying attention to your body and what it is, trying to lead you towards or asking for. So it's a practice. It's something that we all are going to continually be practicing, but it's finding things that you enjoy, things that bring you out of your head into your body, and things that leave you feeling less stressed and more like yourself. Those would be the sort of boxes that I would be looking for when I'm thinking about, okay, what's going to sustain me in my path of health and being connected to myself, mind, body, and soul.
Lovely. Lovely. That's really an honest answer, Brian. And before we wrap up, if our listeners would like to connect with you, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, the best place to go is revitalizeman.com. That's revitalizedman.com. And you can find links to my social media. You can learn more about what I do, my story, etc. And then if anyone wants a free gift, I've got a free testosterone optimization guide. Speaking of optimization, testosterone and energy boosting guide, as well as a stress relief and digestion support meditation or breath work practice. And you can get both of those if you go to revitalizedman.com/guide, GUIDE. And yeah, I'm easy to find online. I respond to emails and to social media messages. So wherever you can find me through my website, I will be more than happy to hear from you and to hear what you're up to.
Great. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes. And Brian, thank you so much for this grounded and inspiring conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sana. It's been wonderful to connect. Really enjoyed talking to you and going through some of these topics. And yeah, I look forward to more to come.
Absolutely. And to all the listeners, yes, nature doesn't just heal, it reminds us who we are. So, if today's conversation resonated with you, pause, breathe, step outside, and begin again. I'm your host, Sana, and this is The Mindful Living. Thank you.